I had no idea. I was told I was crazy, that I was 10 miles north of Gimli and there was nothing up here except Jad's store. And that there was no way anybody would likely come up this far north to go to the beach. We started developing spruce sand in 1960. We started first with the cottage development and started selling lots in 61. And friends of ours came out and wanted to set up in front of the store with their tent. And so we did that. And as soon as some of the people from the air base who used to come down here and swim saw us clearing all that frontage area out and making a park out of it, they wanted to know if they could bring their tents down and park there. So we said yes, and in 1961, for those who did come down, we charged them $15 to put up their tent for the year. In 1961, I guess it was, I had the fellow that built the roads for the cottages. That was done in 1960, actually. When the roads were done for the cottages, a local fella had bought a couple of new large road building machines, and he wanted to try them out. So I had to build my roads, and he built the road.
He built Spruce Bay Road?
Spruce Bay Road at that time. It has been upgraded so that they could pave in that, but the original gravel road, I had to gravel it, build it and gravel it. Because we had a beautiful sand beach, and because the grounds and that was very heavily wooded with spruce trees. And we thought that that kind of showed what we had here, spruce and sands.
Here.
I'm surprised to see some of the people still here. That there are people here that came in 45 years ago. They came and never left, and they're still enjoying the place, and we feel that the fact that we have continued to look after the property so that they feel welcome and enjoy and have an enjoyment of coming out.
Oh, sure. We can sit wherever you want. Oh, I don't mind. I know where
If you guys want to sit together,
Hi, stranger.
have you got people waiting for you?
How you doing?
I thought you asked me that, and I thought, I don't want to sit alone.
I'm doing fine. Oh, you did?
I did, a couple of days, it was great. But
Hello, hello.
well,
Good to see you.
she's just going to be able to say hi, my dear.
Yes, yes. He's visiting over there.
Is he? Oh, good. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah. Pay him a visit for 2 days.
Healthy adults. That's right.
Great, right? Now you're
Canada both are. You know what? His dad died when he was 7. So he's working all his life. He didn't have So this was in April of 74, and
Black and white and
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's celebration of life for Bob Hammond. Just a couple of housekeeping things to get started. We do have a guest book at the entrance, which I think most of you have seen. I saw people congregating around it. So we'd appreciate it if you would all sign it for Bob's family. Washrooms are located directly across the hall. There are also coat racks for your use over there, not over there. What else? There will be lunch available for you a bit later, and there's also a cash bar, which some of you have already discovered. So you will notice a couple of GoPro cameras, including the one staring right at me now, waiting for me to blink. They're being used to capture this event for the family. So thank you to Greg for offering to do this for the family. That's a very kind gesture. So, my name is Eric Turner, and I will be guiding you through today's event. I have known the Hammonds since what feels like the beginning of time, or when dinosaurs roamed the earth, or both. Although I guess Dave and I are now turning into the dinosaurs, so anyway. I met Bob's son Dave while doing boat work at Silver Harbor just north of the park. I come from a small family, but I consider my Hammonds my family too, as does my son Joel, who's somewhere circulating around the room. They have been there for us through good times and not so good times, so it's an honor for me to be asked to do this and be with you today. I want to point out that while grief and sadness are unavoidable, this is a celebration of Bob's life. So fun memories and happy thoughts are welcome here, even expected. In that vein, you'll notice that baskets with colorful little bags are being distributed to the tables. They contain a particular kind of candy that Bob had a special affection for. So there was a time when the store sold bulk candy. And when Bob was leaving the store after lunch or to meet with someone, he would grab a few spearmint leaves from the bulk candy jar. So we invite you to join us today in remembering that simple ritual. That's what's in each of the little bags that are on your table. So as we remember Bob, we should revisit his life and times. And what a life. Born in Winnipeg, May 21st, 1930, raised in East Kildonan until age 15, when his family moved to Hillside Beach in 1945. Bob worked on the family homestead and other neighboring farms. He met Bernice at age 16 while she was vacationing at Hillside, and they started dating in December of 1948. They married in April 1950 during the Great Flood, and their son David was born the following year in 1951. Same as me. I think what is it, Dave? Like less than 3 months between us? About 3 months between our birthdays in 1951. Bob was an entrepreneur and land developer for most of his adulthood. In his early 20s, he sold carpets, sewing machines, and magazines before working side by side with his father in the roofing business. After a short time, he struck out on his own and formed his own roofing and siding company. In 1958, he bought a parcel of lakefront property north of Gimli and created a cottage lot development and called it Spruce Sands. In 1961, friends of Bob and Bernice's wanted to come out with their tents for the weekend, and that was the beginning of Spruce Sands Campground. Bob, along with Dave, purchased and developed the amenities that have since become the RV resort it is today. Other land developments included Pebble Beach cottage lots, office buildings, and a grocery store in Winnipeg. Bob took great pride in many years of service for the Rotary Club of Gimli, having served as president for one term, and he worked closely with the planning and development of Rotary Towers, a 55-plus complex. Bob and Bernice enjoyed their winters in Arizona, being very active in their mobile home park and community events, including square dancing and many barbecues. They also enjoyed exploring the Arizona countryside. Bob lovingly looked after Bernice when her health started to fail and passed away in 2001 after 51 wonderful years of marriage. Upon his retirement, Bob moved to BC, spent time with his mom and siblings, and it's here he met Betty, a former childhood neighbor. Bob and Betty enjoyed many years of traveling, cruising, and driving to Spruce Sands every summer. Upon Betty's passing, Bob moved back to Manitoba and took up residence at River Ridge Retirement Home, where he met Thorne, a former acquaintance and friend to the family. Thorne and Bob took joy in participating in the activities at the home and day trips, driving around Winnipeg and surrounding area. Bob much enjoyed the Anderson family get-togethers. In recent years, he thoroughly enjoyed going to visit the homestead at Hillside to reminisce and talk about the good old days. He was always amazed that the fruit trees his father planted many years ago still bore fruit. Bob generally enjoyed life. Family was important to him and took great pride in being involved in their endeavors. He had a positive, encouraging, and supportive attitude and enjoyed many conversations on numerous topics. He always kept current on life and politics, and his love and participation in life for 94 years will be sorrowfully missed. Bob and Dave shared a unique relationship. Bob was not only Dave's father, but also his mentor, business partner, and friend. While Bob resided in BC for 20 years, they shared weekly phone calls discussing business and current issues. A heartfelt thanks to the doctors, nurses, Jerry, Taylor, Neil, and staff at Riverview Health Center Palliative 3 East Wing, who made Bob's remaining days very comfortable. I wanted to share a thought from someone else on grief, because, we talked about it being a celebration of life, but you're still allowed to be sad. I've seen this one a couple of times, and it's always resonated with me. It's from Jamie Anderson. Grief, I've learned, is really just love. It's all the love you want to give, but cannot. All that unspent love gathers up in the corners of your eyes, the lump in your throat, and in that hollow part of your chest. Grief is love with no place to go. Unfortunately, there are those who are unable to be with us today, so they sent thoughtful messages of remembrance and of support. From Kathy B., a close friend of Bob and Betty's, I loved your dad dearly. He was kind, thoughtful, and generous. I loved spending time with him, and I especially loved his stories. I could listen to him for hours. He was like a dad to me, and he will be missed. From Ken Lee, an accountant, your father was a special man. He lit up a room when he walked in. I will remember him as a gentleman who conducted himself with grace. I wanted to share a personal memory of Bob that means the world to me. I have one son, Joanne, who is here today, sitting over there. Every single time I saw Bob, even if it hadn't been for years, and whether it's Spruce Sands or at River Ridge when I was helping out with the 2022 civic election, Bob always asked about Joanne. It might have been a simple, how's your son, or what's your son doing these days, how's he doing? He always asked about him, and I will never forget that. Now we've come to that time when you get to share your memories of Bob. It might have been a simple interaction at the park, or you were business associates. Perhaps you knew each other through the Rotary Club of Gimli. So I'm inviting you to share something now. So if you don't want to come up here, we'll come to you. It's a wireless mic. And or grab a piece of paper. We've got pads of paper and pens. And you could write a memory, legibly, please. And then I'll read it. The choice is yours, but we'd really like to hear your memories of Bob. While you ponder that, to start things off, Brian Cooper would like to say a few words. Where's Brian? Am I coming to you? You coming to me? You're coming to me? Here we go.
Welcome. Didn't he do a great job? Boy, he sure knows his way around the Hammond family. Hello, folks. My name is Brian Cooper. My association with the Hammond family is that my mother, Doris Cooper, was the sister to Bob's first wife. I didn't know my mother too well. I didn't know Bernice too well either. But that's irrelevant for the time being. But this may sound like a silly question, but how many people in this room have been to the lake where Bob set out spruce sands? How many people have been there? Show of hands. Just about everybody. So we have all been touched in some way. And I must tell you that you have spent a lot more time with Bernice and Bob than I ever did. The memories that you have, you'll never forget. That's why you're here, to remember. You got photographs, but your own memories are the ones that count the most, because you had good times, bad times, so it rained on you, and you all took it in stride. When I was a younger man, I think Bob was about 11 or 12 years older than I was. I didn't really know who this guy was. But my parents did allow me to spend some time in their own personal homes. I think my parents just wanted to get me out of the house for a couple of days so they would kind of palm me off on Bernice and Bob when they lived on Downing Street. 1138, was that the address? And I think they lived somewhere out in the northeast section of Winnipeg off Henderson Highway at one point in time. Okay, good. I do remember going to Bernice and Bob's wedding. Of course, I don't remember what went on. I was also at the church when they got married. I don't remember that at all. My mind was obviously not with them on that day. Being a young guy, I was probably thinking of some girlfriend or something. But is that Thorin I see down here? Yes. Yes. Thorin. I have a photograph for you, one of the last pictures that we took at a fish fry, which my son sort of sponsored 2 or 3 years ago. We invited Thorin and Bob to come over for a fish dinner. And they generously said yes. And we had a darn good afternoon. We ate so much fish that day. Very tasty. I've got a photograph you can take home of the whole group. I don't have too much other things to say, but what appealed to me about Bob was he always seemed to have a smile on his face. whenever we got together, whether it was down at the lake, even if he was going through hard times, which I guess he did, having to deal with the municipality a few times on touchy subjects. But he always had a kind word to say to my family. My parents, Doris Cooper and Ed Cooper, they were often invited to spend a week or two down at their winter vacation home. I think it was in the Phoenix, Arizona area. They kind of treasured that. You can hear a pin drop. The last time I saw Bob was when we had that fish dinner. Since then, Bob and I had been in touch by phone several times trying to initiate another fish dinner. But I guess as his health deteriorated, we had to kind of put it off, and some of my family members, we couldn't kind of coordinate everybody in the same spot at the same time. So I guess the last time we talked to him was a month or so before Bob passed. And that really rocked me when I heard that. My sister notified me that Bob had passed. I cried. He's my uncle. He had a lot of energy. You probably know that. He had a work ethic like nobody else I knew. Things had to be done. So between Bob and his son, and probably others, they made it happen. I don't know what the disposition of the park is right now. I think is it out of the hands of the family at this point, or is it?
Still in the family.
You still got it?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, to all of those who are here, and I hope that you still continue to go there. I remember the ice cream shop too. I remember the park when it was new and the roads were being laid out. And I think the ice cream stand was probably one of the first things that went in there, and they had a little store in there too, eh? Right?
Yep.
Right. Perhaps my family missed out on a good time. We could have spent the rest of our life there.
Lots of ice cream.
I guess other things got in the way though. However, I wish you well. I wish the park well. My wife, my second wife, Isla, who is with me today, we decided to spend our winters in Florida. So we spent almost 20 winters down there before COVID came. And then when COVID came, the governor of Florida started to scold the Canadians, saying, "What's wrong with you people? There's no COVID here." And that put the seed in our heads, and we just said to ourselves, if that's the thinking of those damned Americans, we're out of here. And we sold our house in one day. And we headed back home here 2 years ago in the middle of winter. And by the time we got to the Canadian border, they wouldn't let us go over because no one knew what the rules were for crossing the border. So we ended up stuck in some hotel in North Dakota until the Border Patrol figured out what the rules were going to be. And we had to spend 14 days in quarantine waiting for paperwork to be done. My wife had contracted COVID 4 times coming home, and we had to be tested in North Dakota. I did not contract COVID at all, not once. Can you imagine that, being in a motel room and, you know, with your wife, and you're sleeping in the same bed, but one gets COVID and the other one doesn't? We could never figure that one out. Ultimately, we did get a reprieve when the powers that be emailed us a notification saying that we had put in our 14 days of quarantine. We can now go home back to Canada without any fear of being fined. So we took the letter and we immediately headed for home, dropped the paperwork off, and away we went, no problems. So, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't hesitate to say that probably most of the people in this room are retired at this point in time. I don't know what your feelings are, or if you're still going to go back down to the States, but in the meantime, don't forget, here's the advertising for Spruce Sands. This is still the place to go. Thank you all.
Brian has just illustrated the interconnectedness of all things, or the 2 degrees of separation, because his story about COVID and coming back across the border. At the time, I was a senior communications advisor for the Public Health Agency of Canada, and I was working on border communications when they were figuring out what the rules were and how to communicate those rules. And one thing we never figured out is how do we communicate those rules effectively to people who aren't in the country. So it was on the website and places like that, but it just shows how everything is connected to everything else. So thank you again, Brian. Now we're going to hear from Lara, Thorin's granddaughter, to speak on behalf of the Anderson family, which is when Francie introduced us a little while ago. She said, "This is Lara, the granddaughter." I said, "You mean like Lorenzo the cat?" You know, the same kind of thing. And that, by the way, is actually the highest compliment. So, since we have 2 cats at our place. So, Lara, if you'd like to speak on behalf of the Anderson family, you can come on up and share your thoughts with us, and please don't steal my notes.
I won't.
Because I'm lost.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, which I'm pretty sure is nearly everyone here, my name is Lara Anderson, and I am Thorin's granddaughter. Thorin was the 3rd extremely lucky woman to be chosen as a companion of Bob's. Our grandma had moved into River Ridge a few years prior to Bob moving back to Manitoba and moving in. And having survived the first wave of COVID on her own, when they connected in the fall of 2021, we were all extremely grateful. For all of us, those years of lockdown were extremely scary, isolating, and uncertain. However, for our grandma, every time we would call and check in on wave 2, 3, 4, and 5, see how she was doing, she sounded so positive and said that her and Bob were having a fabulous time and we're just grateful to have one another. As soon as we met Bob, or as soon as I met Bob, because he's actually known our family, or my grandmother and my dad and my aunt for a long time, he was instantly family to us. My grandma was quick to scoop him up because men like him do not arrive every day at a place like River Ridge, or anywhere on the planet, my husband wanted to say, for that matter. He gave her a ring and told us that he needed to make an honest woman out of her before they could move in together. Because, of course, they didn't want or need to be the talk of the town if they moved in together without some proper commitment. He was always such a gentleman. Bob was so doting on my grandma, and she showed us all how much, he showed us all how much he loved us and cared every chance that he could. They enjoyed many trips back to the Interlake, where they had originally met many, many years ago. My aunt just reminded and shared with me that Bob was actually her first employer at working at at the ice cream shop when she was 15 years old. They shared many friends at River Ridge and enjoyed participating in all of the outings, dancing in the evening, events, movie nights. I think you saw his gold medal there. They also were very competitive, both of them naturally, with the strong work ethic that was alluded to. During the Olympics, they liked to compete in all the events so they could win some prizes. And eventually they did win, and the prizes that they chose were some small toys and stuffed animals that they could have in their suite, so when all the grandkids, or great-grandkids I should say, came over, they'd have something for them to play with. We all know that growing older and being in the sunset of your life is not the easiest time in one's journey, and it can be a challenge to stay optimistic. But Bob never let that show. His passion for continuous learning, imparting wisdom, sharing all those incredible stories of his youth and time at Hillside, and his seemingly never-ending optimism were some of his attributes that I admired the most. I will miss his great big hugs, his old man polo shirts with his glasses and his pen in his chest pocket, and the way he always called me dear. I wasn't sure if I was worthy of saying something today for a man that's lived a life of 95 years long, and I only got to know him for the past 4. It didn't seem long enough, when I'm sure many of you have known him for much, much longer and loved him for even longer than that. But Bob made a profound impact on our lives, especially on the life of my grandmother. And I think sometimes as we age, we don't necessarily know how else we're going to contribute later in our life or make a difference in the lives of people around you. But at the young age of 90, Bob still managed to have such a lasting and positive effect on me and my family. So thank you for sharing him with us. So here's to Bob. We love you.
You know, one of the things that you notice by listening to people today, or just somehow paying attention, is how deeply embedded Spruce Sands is in the lives of so many people. My son's first job, summer he graduated high school, was working with some others in the store at Spruce Sands. So, and that's the experience of so many others that I'm not sure even the family appreciates the extent to which Spruce Sands and the people there have kind of permeated so many lives for so many years. So thank you again, Lara, for sharing those experiences and those feelings. We are now going to hear from Diane Knight. Where is Diane? Oh, there she is.
My name is Diane Knight, and I grew up at Spruce Sands. My parents had a good friend named Murray Hanna, and Murray owned the orange bus in the back of A-Bay. And sorry, but my back is to all of you. We used to go out to A-Bay, or to Murray's cabin, as we called it, in the late 60s. My parents finally bought a place, I think it was in 1972. So I would have been 11 then. And I started working at the store when I was 14. Bob was the best boss I had in my whole career. From the store, I worked for IGA, and then I was with the bank and retired from CIBC. But I can tell you, those years that I worked for Bob and Dave were the best. Where can you go for a swim on your lunch and come back into work? You know, as long as you came in, Bob didn't care if your hair was wet at that time. I know things changed over the years, but when I was there, that's how it was. We didn't have the restaurant part then, but we certainly had all that dang blasted 2 for 1 cent candy you had to count out for everybody. Somebody would come in with a quarter and you'd have to count out 50 for this kid and 50 for that kid. And that's really what you did all day. So, you know, just being at Spruce Sands, and now we own a place. We finally bought a place in 2000 and moved to a different place a few years back, and we're in B Bay. My sister is in C Bay, my brother's out all the time. We just grew up there. We would come out and spend the whole summer. I would work, my brother would golf, my sister would do I don't know what. But, you know, it was just a really good time. I can remember coming out and starting May 1st, I think it was, for Bob and Dave. Diana was just a young kid, and she was my entertainment every night. I would pick Diana up and we'd ride the bikes. She'd ride on my bike with me because she was too young to ride a bike on her own, and we would just hang out for a while. And really, that family is like my family because they were so good to me. And Bob will be terribly missed by a lot of people. And I just want to make sure that you all know what a great man he was. Thank you.
Thank you very much for sharing that with us. Who else has a story to tell? Looking among the sea of faces. None of you? Come on. Well, that's going to be the shortest celebration ever. You don't want me to start telling stories. Somebody had something they were writing out.
Okay, so my name's Ken Peaty. Bob was my uncle. In about 1965, we moved from Ottawa to Winnipeg. My parents got divorced and my mom came here with 5 kids. No place to live. We ended up living at Rory's place, who's also, her mom was Bob's sister, until Bob found us a place to live in West Kelowna. We had there was 6 of us, little 2-bedroom, 600 square foot house, no basement. But Bob was, all I can say about Bob was he was probably the friendliest guy I've ever known. He always had a smile on his face. When I was about 13 or 14, my mom sent me and my brother out to Spruce Sands to clear lots. Dave was our boss. He was mean. Bernice said if we didn't work hard enough, we wouldn't get anything to eat. I don't know if you remember that, Dave, or not, but anyway, we worked out there for a couple of weeks, and you know, Bob moved to BC, and my brother lives in BC, so anytime I'd go visit my brother, I'd see Uncle Bob. And even when he came back to Spruce Sands, we'd go out there and visit him, and he always had a hug for you, a hug for my wife. I think my wife sang at Bernice's funeral when she passed away in Gimli. But Bob wasn't just a good man, he was a great man. And yeah, I really cared a lot for him. Didn't see him a lot, but didn't spend a lot of time at Spruce Sands. But just to say that Bob was a really good man. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing that memory. I do think someone was writing something down earlier that we were going to read, but did that happen, Francis? No? Didn't happen? Okay, well, there's still time if you have, thoughts leaping into your head. But for now, thank you all for sharing your thoughts with us. I know it's not the easiest thing to do spontaneously. So we've come to that part of the program where we acknowledge things. Many thanks To Thorin's family, the Andersons, for welcoming Bob so openly into their family, including him and their get-togethers. He was happy to meet all of you again and get to know you better. He was especially fond of all the grandchildren born in the last few years. To cousins, June and Greg, for making the trip from Saskatchewan and offering to video this memorable occasion. Greg there, we're very grateful for your thoughtfulness. To the staff at River Ridge Retirement Home, thanks for your help and support for his passage. And to the wonderful and caring staff at Riverview Health Center Palliative Care Unit, their thoughtful care and support during this difficult time was most valuable and greatly appreciated. The overwhelming thoughts and well wishes from Bob's family, both near and far, friends, and the Spruce Sands community, has helped the family through this emotional time. And for all of you who came here today, your attendance, support, and kind words mean much more than you know. So many thanks for that. And finally, a big thank you to the hotel and kitchen staff for their hard work, creating such a welcoming environment and making sure that we don't go hungry. And so as we wrap up the formal part of the afternoon, I want to remind you that you're welcome to stay, mingle, catch up with friends, acquaintances, and fellow campers, and partake of food, which you may or may not have noticed all along the back wall. So please stay, visit with friends, have a bite to eat, and that's the end of the formal part of the program today. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.